Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ogeros Election Day live stream. I'm Carly Wallace, one of your hosts for today, and I'm on the beach volleyball team here at the university, and I'm studying journalism.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt Wisner. I'll be the other host today. I'm a senior on the track team and I'm a master's in journalism student. O Heroes works to help connect University of Oregon student athletes and people in the community with the goal of building connections and creating positive change.
We're here today with a special event for Election Day, raising money for Rock the Vote.
This fundraiser and live stream came about because we recognize how important voting is in our country and how important it is to make sure everyone can stay informed on the issues and understand how they can vote in elections wherever they are.
Our goal today is to raise $2,000, and we have a link to donate directly to Rock the Vote. You can find that in the description of this stream. The link is live now, so you can go there and donate at any point during or after this stream.
Today we'll be joined by several guests to talk about the importance of voting and being civically active. We'll start with a quick overview of Rock the Vote and how they're helping to protect our democratic process.
Then we'll hear from Coach Mike Meninga and Coach Courtney Walden from the men's and women's basketball programs on their hugely successful campaign to make sure every single student athlete registered to vote and made their voices heard.
After that, we'll be talking with current and former UO athletes, as well as a UO professor, about how everyone can impact our communities every day of the year and create positive change through individual action. We'll also talk about other ways we can be civically active.
We'll also be talking about how UO Athletics and O Heroes is helping the community now and into the future.
Ultimately, O Heroes wants student athletes to engage with their communities, and voting not only affects you personally, but it can also affect everybody in Eugene, all of Oregon, and the entire country. It's really important that we all vote today.
To start us off, we're joined by Shirley Vilca from Rock the Vote. Shirley, thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about Rock the Vote does and how people's donations will help?
Definitely. So, Rock the Vote is 30 years old. We started in 1990 as a response to censorship in hip hop music at the time, and we've grown since then. We've registered over 13 million voters so far, and the number just increased significantly this year. And so Rock the Vote helps register young people and helps them build their political power so they can be engaged and mobilized and confident when they cast their ballot.
That's so
Thank you.
important. Yeah, 30 million is so many. Thanks a bunch, Shirley. I guess to start off our topic today around voting and civic engagement, we'll have a video that we filmed yesterday from Coach Mike Meninga and Coach Courtney Walden. It's about their Keep It 100 campaign, which here at U of O, we saw 100% of our student athletes register to vote. And both of these coaches are really working hard to make sure that all the student athletes learn about the issues and can submit their ballots without any complications. So we'll start it off with a couple questions. Can you guys talk about what it means to keep it 100 and what are the goals of the Keep It 100 campaign?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having us. Three goals, right? Three main goals for Keep It 100. First was that we wanted 100% voter registration. We really wanted all the student athletes to get involved, register early. Some of them didn't even realize they were registered, but there's a lot of states that are automatic voter registration, didn't know they were even registered just by having their voter ID. So we knocked out a bunch of voter registration first. First goal, biggest goal, you have to be registered to vote, right? So that was the big main first point. And we did great with that one. That was huge. Second we had was that we wanted to really do the education piece and kind of have the voter follow-up with it, right? So like, let's educate on what it means to vote, why we vote, how to vote, the whole process. And then the second piece is like, let's educate them on that process so they're actually able to go and execute and go vote and actually do that final process. And then our third is like a lifetime stand. We want it to be a lifetime stand to keep it 100 against racism and hate. And we really think that piece is important too, because it's awesome to do those measures. The voting really can impact like on a national scale, and you can impact just in your local area, but we want it to be a personal stand, that I'm going to act this particular way around my friends and family, to my neighbor. Just really wanted to make it a personal piece there. Yeah, Mike, anything?
And to chime in on what Courtney said, obviously voter registration, education, and participation are so important. But at the end of the day, number three, that last part is so impacting, because this is a lifetime commitment. And that's kind of one of the messages that we wanted to really put forth to the athletes, is that, this is a lifetime commitment, not only to voting, but a lifetime commitment of just being using your platform to empower your voice, to understand that as an elite athlete, as an Oregon Duck, you do have people that see you as a role model, see you as a leader, and your voice does matter. And, and then back to the whole ideology of, keeping it 100, again, taking a stand against racism, hate. I mean, I don't think whatever side of the aisle you are on, the left or the right, I think that's maybe one place that we can all come together on, is that, the fundamental rule, treat other people like you want to be treated, you know what I mean? And I think it starts there. And then, being fair and equal, obviously that's what our country was based on, and all men and women are created equal. And, I think that is the fundamental that we want to carry forward. And, to take it a step beyond that, and this is where I got, where Courtney's been an awesome teammate, and just kind of motivating us to go further. She's been a big proponent, and I've now become a big proponent. Not only the federal election is one thing, but coming back here in a couple of years when other members of Congress are up for re-election, and now we start getting into the down ballot, and now we're going to get into like the officials and the policies that are like affecting us truly day to day, whether it's the mayor all the way to the Secretary of State, to the Attorney General, to our other local authorities here, so hopefully, this experience, because obviously we dealt with a lot of first-time voters, so now what an election, right, to be a first-time voter, you know what I mean? From hearing all this noise, and navigating that, you know what I mean? So hopefully that experience, you know what I mean, has kind of maybe motivated our athletes even more, because obviously I think one thing we share as Oregon Duck athletes is, our crafts are important. We're passionate, competitive, and we win championships. So the ideology is to tap into that. And, I'd like to think that this experience, hopefully, has motivated our athletes even more to participate in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I think like young people definitely seem more tuned into politics now than they ever have in the past. Do you think that your student athletes are kind of paying attention more and caring more about voting now than they maybe would have 4 years ago?
Yeah, I would say our athletes right now, I think about where I was at their age. We didn't have that kind of, like, it just wasn't blown up on social media like it is now. It's just, I mean, I had social media growing up as a student athlete, but it's not how it is right now around the election. Like, this is just unseen and hasn't happened before. And I really think that the young voice right now, they know that they can create change, and they have a possibility to move a nation. And I think they feel empowered by that. And our goal was to really make sure that we can help allow them to do that. Like, they're first time voters, like Mike said, do they know the process they have to go through? Do they know about voter suppression? Do they know that it's not always easy sometimes to have your vote counted? And then, like Mike was saying, a big piece for us too was that we want them to be leaders on campus. And if you start seeing a lot of those student athletes posting about why voting is important to them, we hope that that's going to affect the student body at University of Oregon. And we want our student athletes to be leaders on campus too, not just in our athletic community in the Pac-12, which I think they're leaders, but in just our student body, the kids that are in class with them, right next to them. So we really were looking for them to, kind of take the role and of I'm going to try to get other people registered. I know how to do it now. I'm going to help others. And I think a lot of them took that step, which is awesome.
You know, and not to go all coach on you guys or anything like that, but obviously, you know, seeing whether it's a young athlete take ownership, you know, a group take ownership over their team or what have you, you know, I mean, I think in order to get to that point, you know, Courtney brought this up early, and I thought it was such a good point when we started Keep It 100. We got to find the why. We got to encourage our athletes to, you know, what may motivate you, Carly, to vote one way or another. Your why may be different than Matt's why. You know what I mean? So it was more than just filling out a form. You know what I mean? And that's what we really wanted to get to. And, you know, we probably didn't get it perfect this time, but again, you know, this is something we want to kind of keep coming back to. I think regardless of what happens on this election, it's not like issues are going to go away. You know what I mean? There's going to be issues, whether it's civil or in the government, or there's going to be things that affect your personal life that you feel like you got to take a stand on. So again, you know, keeping it 100, it just goes beyond the federal election and it goes beyond the election itself, you know, and I think in order to do that, you got to help young people find that why, you know what I mean? What motivates them, you know what I mean, to push on, to be that leader. So I got to give Courtney a lot of credit on that when we started this off. That was a big part of what she was bringing to the table. And like I said, I think we did it, but there's still a lot of work to do, guys. You know, I mean, this is by no means finished product, you know, but it may be a seed, a stepping stone to something that's going to be bigger someday.
Right. And me and Mike's first run at this, right? Like
Right.
we were really like, we're like, okay, let's figure this out, you know, just like our athletes figuring out how to vote the first time. We were like, how do we get a bunch of athletes to vote? So how do we get these student athletes to be involved? And we were figuring it out as we went too.
Okay, like this, because we're not activists, we're coaches, you know what I mean? So this might be a great segue, you know, Matt, Carly, probably this is a great compliment to our athletic department. I'll be honest with you, when we started this, as far as getting all the athletes registered to vote, I was thinking, oh, we're going to be up all night chasing up, you know, did you do this? Did you do that? But I was blown away, guys, of just like the administration, the coaches, and then the athletes themselves just taking ownership, like you guys were alluding to earlier, Matt, you know, just young people they see what's going on. So I was so proud of being a Duck, you know what I mean? There's no doubt, you know what I mean, why we win championships. And we have a saying in our program, you got to be connected. You got to have a connected group. And I could honestly say that our athletic department, our athletic family is connected.
Mm-hmm. Right. So kind of going off of that, can you talk a little bit about who was all involved and how big your team was?
Yeah, we had a point of contact. It was Mike and I, and a point of contact from each team, like an assistant coach or maybe volunteer staff, someone that was on that team that felt passionate about it and wanted to kind of take the lead. So we assigned that person, like we pretty much just had a Google Doc running of like voter registration. What state are you from? Have you voted before? And we sent them on the attack. We were like, go find those athletes, you know, like walk them through the process. We did a little education piece with the coaches and stuff on how to do that. And they got after it. A lot of them sent the link to their athletes and themselves and said, you know, hey, you guys take some responsibility and start filling this out yourselves. And they did it. Those athletes went through. I was getting texts about like, hey, do I go to this link? Like a lot of communication between that point of contact and myself and Mike, and we had awesome help from those coaches and from usually it was like team captains or leaders on that team that were like kind of doing a little of the hustle work of, hey, I still see that yours isn't filled out on here. Like, get that done, knock it out, you know? So that was great to see.
Yeah, I like I said, not to sound like a broken record, but the teamwork was just phenomenal, you know what I mean, across the board. And we had great help along the administration. Obviously, Rob Mullins and the head coaches allowed Courtney and I to jump in there into the head coaches meetings and kind of break the ice of what we were trying to do. And then, you know, Jess Harley and Be Oregon allowing us that platform, you know what I mean, to kind of put it out there, you know what I mean, in something that like a Be Oregon Foundation, I think gave it legitimacy of what we're doing, and this is real. And then, we had some people behind the scenes as well. Pat Scully and our staff, Angie Henbist in the business office, Jody Sykes, our compliance officer, was really, was orchestrating a lot of stuff in the beginning. And then Dr. Eris Hall from our Cultural Center, the Black Student Union. We're looking to really expand our programming with her, moving forward and leaning on that organization to help us kind of in that phase 3 we talked about of Keep It 100. So again, the federal election is just the beginning. You know what I mean? You can't fundamentally vote in a president and then 2 years later not vote for Congress. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden, if you don't do that, then we're not going to have anything going. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that we've talked about. It's a lifetime commitment. And again, that's where Courtney and I, we're just going to have to continue to bring the juice and, keep that as a hot topic.
Yeah. And we also leaned on Osberg a lot. That was another.
Absolutely.
And honestly, we're thinking, me and Mike this is new for both of us. There are organizations on campus that do this thing, Osberg does voting. That's their thing. And Black Student Union, they know how to bring people together. Like, what are important issues? We were like, we need your guys' help on this. And they came running. They were like, we are ready. We're ready to help you on this cause. And they were awesome. I mean, we had a ton of help from Osberg and Black Student Union, and a lot of people show up and in our corner, which is, again, that connectedness of Oregon Ducks.
I mean, seriously, and Courtney, the Osberg folks, they were on me. That was a learning experience for me. Like I said, we're coaches. We don't have all the answers when it comes to political issues or voting, what's this and what's that. So they really educated us, because this year, as you could tell, every state was different as far as like, hey, you got to mail in, you get to mail in this state, but in Texas, you have to request your ballot, but COVID wasn't a good enough excuse. You know what I mean? So every state had different hoops to jump through, and Osberg got to give them a lot of credit for assisting and just kind of navigating us through all that.
Yeah, that's a good segue into my next question too. I was going to ask, do you know if other schools are doing the same thing, or is this project something that's specific to Oregon?
Definitely other schools are doing similar things. I think right now a lot of like the Pac-12 is recognizing that this is something that is important to us as a Pac-12 conference, and we need to make sure that it's built into our program. We have to have systems set up for this to continue. If it's just a one-off 1 year that we set this up, cool, that's awesome, but it doesn't have that long lasting change. And I think the Pac-12 was really trying to push for that. Like you need to, as the entire Pac-12 is taking off on election day, in honor of election day, right? That it's important that you get out and vote. No practice, no lift. I love that they're doing that. And definitely other schools. Mike and I are a part of a group called Coaches for Change, which is a bunch of other coaches from across the nation, in college and some in the private sector, I think, that are there. We're coming together to say, how can we support our student athletes, and we did some brainstorming with those groups on like, what's the best way to go about this? Like we had ideas from other programs that they're doing a walk on this day, or they're bringing police officers in to talk to the student athletes, or tons of like brainstorming ideas with them. And getting registered was a huge piece of our Coaches for Change group. We decided that's one thing that we can affect, bipartisan, really can help change someone's life, because these are young people, again, that first time voters. And that was a big move for Coaches for Change. Let's get as many teams, individuals registered to vote. So definitely other schools that are involved.
And if you haven't, and in Coaches for Change, like Courtney said, I mean, I'm very proud to be a part of that organization. If you do get a chance, go to their website, coachesforchange.org. It's just got a bevy of information, not only just what's going on, just, in the election, but taking it a step further to like civil issues, even to the point, which is just like current events, all the way down to what are the best books to read on certain topics that are going on the civil area, Netflix recommendations. I mean, you name it, podcasts, we got it on there. And the whole ideology, again, was to empower our athletes, educate, our athletes, and just basically make them understand again that this is a lifetime commitment, and if you haven't had a chance, that's a great endeavor. And to answer your first question that Courtney said, a lot of schools that I'm talking to across the country have their own versions of Keep It 100, but the same ideology is where we're kind of at, is that our athletes are leaders on campus. And, one of the greatest teaching methods for any coach is using peer pressure to your advantage. You know what I mean? If player X is doing it, well, maybe player Y is gonna be like, oh, well, I got to do it too, so, the same idea. So I think it's a natural fit, for coaches to talk about with their athletes. And like Courtney said, I mean, I just think this is something that we got to continue to lock in on and get better at and continue to expand, on these conversations, so I think all of us that were involved through Coaches for Change are looking around, we're kind of, as we dialogue with our athletes, was, hey, when we were players, we didn't have nothing like that. You know what I mean? This is like a natural fit for athletic departments and coaches all together. So I hope that Oregon continues to push it to make it part of the student athlete experience.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're so proud that we had 100% of our student athletes registered to vote, and I just wanted to remind you all that periodically the donation link is going to flash at the bottom, the actual link for Rock the Vote, and they're doing a lot of cool projects with voter turnout, and they're just working generally to protect their democratic process. All right, I guess probably black language you had. So next, we want to talk to you about different ways us can help to impact activities throughout the year. We're joined by Professor Jose Melendez, along with U of O track alum Zach Birdall, another U of O track alum Travis Thompson, and current Duck athletes Zoe Hassanauer from the soccer team and Evan Williams from the baseball team. So thanks everyone for joining us. I guess to get us started off, Professor Melendez, a question for you. So many people focus on the national election. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the state level and local level elections and the kind of impact that we can have on the local and regional levels?
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me on such an important event. For me, focusing back on local and regional elections is about bringing it back home. What affects your communities, what affects your family, what affects your friends, what affects your neighbors, even if you don't know them. Paying attention to things that we know we interact with every day, or our neighbors interact every day with, such as schools, parks and recreation, public health, or even thinking about the environment. If we care about these things and we think that these things need additional resources or need to get paid more attention, that's where local and regional elections have an impact. We need to have conversations with other individuals who are still sending their kids to public schools, who are accessing public health facilities, who are in need of parks and recreations in order to stay healthy, or who have been impacted by fires or droughts. And keep those things in mind as we go and vote in local and regional elections. So that would be my starting point there in trying to figure out the relationship between national and local and regional.
Yeah, you said something really cool in there. I think previously we had this politic where about individual interests, but you talked about voting for your neighbor and voting for your community. Can you talk a little bit more about that shift, kind of keeping the collective in mind when we go to the polls?
Yeah, it's this ability to think about the other, even if the other is not something that we're very familiar with. So I'll use myself as a personal example. I'm a gay man and I don't have kids and I don't send my kids to public school, right? But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be paying for taxes that support public schools and that I shouldn't care about how public schools in Oregon or in Eugene or in rural Oregon are being impacted by budget cuts or the inability to find more funds to make them richer learning environments. So this is about moving beyond myself and thinking about the community at large, even if I am not directly impacted by them. Again, I may not have lived where the fires hit, but if I look at what is needed in those areas, then I should have that influence how I'm voting and what knowledge is being brought into my figuring out what is needed locally, regionally.
Yeah, that's really well said. The next question we have is for Zoe. So, Zoe, how do you stay informed about the political issues that you'll be taking with you when you go to the ballot box? And do you see your peers using those resources?
I usually use CNN and New York Times. I have a subscription to these. But I think that now social media is such a big asset for information being spread that a lot of people use Twitter and Facebook and different things to get their news, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think that if you actually look like into something that you see on Twitter, or if you're following reputable news sources that you know have a basis, I think that it's fine to get your news from Twitter. But I just think that it's definitely something that we can't just like believe everything that we see on social media. Like obviously that's a thing that a lot of people say, but just making sure to like fact check your information that you see on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. I think that that is actually like a great source of like media for younger generations, and I think that's definitely a big reason why a lot of people have become so much more involved in this election. I think that they've gotten to see a lot more stuff due to Twitter and different things, whether it be videos or different news sources. I think that it's been a great asset. So I would say to keep using that, but to be cautious about it at the same time.
I agree with that. So for Seth, so we got everyone registered to vote. So as a former student athlete and recent graduate, what comes next after voting?
First, thank you guys so much for having me. And what comes next after voting? That's a great question. I think the obvious answer is basically everything. Voting is a civic duty and it's super important and it's something that you really need to do. But it's kind of like taking out the trash. You have to take out the trash or else your house is going to smell terribly. But after you take out the trash, you don't sit down and think, that was a great day. I did everything that I needed to do in that day because I took out the trash. No, it's just that's step one. And then everything that comes after that is going to impact how your community operates, and from your community to your county to your state and eventually to the US. So after, I think a really important part of that question too is, as a former student athlete, I, I was really excited to hear about Oregon getting everyone registered to vote, that keeping it 100 initiative that took place. But once you're not a student athlete anymore, and there isn't that support network around you that wants you to succeed in all facets of your life, you kind of have to be a self-starter. You have to be the kind of person that wants to go out and do things like voting, things that you not only need to do for yourself, but like was mentioned before, things that you need to do for other people that are in other communities or that might not be as well off as you. So that's what happens after voting is everything else.
Yeah, that was really well said, Seth. I think there's this idea that politics is something that we just do every 4 years. A really good place to be politically engaged all the time. So can you maybe talk about other ways of being engaged, civically active when we're not in this November election time in 4 years?
Yeah. I think that getting involved in your community can look different in a lot of ways. There's traditional ways like volunteering, and there are a number of volunteer organizations that are all good ways of helping at a local level. There's of course donating funds to people in need, but then there are ways that are, I think, a bit subtler. You can look at perhaps if you move to a city. I moved to Seattle from Eugene, and Seattle is obviously a lot bigger than Eugene. But when you live in a city, you don't just live in Seattle, you live in the area of the city. Not the entire thing. And what I mean by that is I live in Capitol Hill, which is a neighborhood of Seattle, and there are some things that are unique to Capitol Hill that aren't unique to Seattle as a city. And so what you can do is look around at how groups of people operate in your neighborhood, in your community, and try to not only appreciate those things but be a part of them. So Capitol Hill is the LGBTQ plus oriented neighborhood in Seattle, and as an ally, I can look around at how those people interact with one another and see how I can be actually truly become a part of the community. Because to vote and to understand what you're voting for, you need to understand like the community that you're a part of and how that community is going to be impacted by things that are up at the next election, both at a local and a national level. So it's not an every 4 years thing. It's an everyday kind of thing.
I would really love that.
If I may add something to that, what Seth just said, because I think it's really on point. I think what comes after voting is living life. And
Yeah.
living life is going to influence how you vote. But if you don't live life, if you're not interconnected to your community, to your region, to your friends, to your neighbors that you may not even know, then you're going to vote absent a context. And so make sure you're living life. Make sure you go to the neighborhood park so that when a measure comes up in a local election about how to provide more funding for parks, you have an awareness of what the park system looks like. You know, it's about making sure that you are situated in a place and connected to it, as opposed to just being anonymously in a place and then somehow feeling that you can have a say in how that place is run. So thank you for that, Seth.
Yeah, that was a better way of saying what I was trying to say. So thank you.
Yeah, really important point for sure. I just wanted to remind everyone again that the actual link is flashing down at the bottom if you're interested in donating to Rock the Vote. And I guess I'll ask the next question. This one's for Evan. So Evan, it's inevitable that we're going to encounter people who kind of approach politics differently than we do, with different opinions, different views. What are some ways that we can navigate our differences and kind of like create a dialogue to make progress and broaden our understanding of the people around us?
For me, I think it comes down to being respectful, listening to others, and being open-minded. I think you have to understand that not everyone has the same experience as you have or comes from the same background and views issues differently than one another. So I think which leads to having people having different opinions and leading them to be on one side or the other. And I think it comes down to more respect. You can't just hate the other side because they have these opinions or these things or they're different from you. And I think that's why we live in a democracy. What makes a democracy so strong and a great place to live is that not everyone's going to agree, and they don't have to agree.
Yeah, totally. I think we also like live in politics that's increasingly reluctant to start conversation, where we build these echo chambers and we don't really talk to people who think differently than we do. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of creating dialogue?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's being able just to listen and understand that I'm not going to have the same experiences as my best friend will. We're not going to be in the same jobs, or things aren't going to affect us the same way in politics. But that doesn't mean they're not important to one another. But that just also means that it's going to affect them another way and me a different way. And being able to understand that and not say I hate you because you are voting for this candidate or that candidate, or you believe this or believe that. That I respect your decision. I don't have to agree with you, but I respect your decision, and I can see why.
All right, thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. So on to Travis. How does someone elevate their engagement? I know people get involved, but how do we make it something that we can own as ours, essentially?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. How do you elevate your engagement? So I'm in the world of digital media and advertising, and for me, it starts with really trying to figure out, how the vote is going to affect you. Growing up, my dad was actually in politics, but I had no interest in politics until I kind of got into the business world and graduated from college. He spent 2 terms as a state representative and then moved in and ran for state senator. And so I spent like my childhood running around the state capitol, but like had no idea what was going on. So once I got into business, I really started to have a passion for like, okay, if I'm voting, like how is that going to affect me? And how is that going to affect people around me? I really started to listen to people in the community that I worked with and friends. I do a lot of stuff in natural resources, agriculture, small business. And I might have a different opinion to them, but I've found that when I engage with those people in person, I kind of see a different perspective than, stuck behind a Facebook screen or whatever it is. And a lot of times how it impacts them and seeing it, eye to eye, face to face, it helped me shape kind of my opinion. And, the people that are close to me, seeing how, these policies affect them, helps me vote myself in the community, regionally and nationally. So I guess to elevate engagement, as crazy as it sounds for someone that's in digital media advertising, is try to get into the community, live life. Like I heard said earlier, I think it's so important to understand what's going on. Try to be face to face when you can. Obviously, we're in coronavirus season right now, but when you can, try to figure out when these people are meeting. Use Facebook to be able to figure out when a group that's meeting locally is meeting, and try to be there and hear them out face to face. And I think that allows you to increase your engagement, and also make you a better voter.
Yeah, that was really well said. I want to ask you a question about something you said there. You said, growing up, your dad was in politics, but you didn't really know what was going on a lot of the time. And I think right now we're in this political moment where young people do seem to know what's going on before. So can you talk a little bit about that culture shift toward kind of like politicization of like the ordinary person?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting for me because full disclosure, my dad was a commercial fisherman for 50 years. So, I think when you think natural resources, you think commercial fishing, you think Republican, to be honest with you. But my dad ran Democrat. So I kind of got a chance to see, business positions that were maybe a little bit more conservative, but then other things that were maybe a little bit more liberal and on the Democratic side. And so it was really cool for me to kind of, at the time, really unconsciously soaking up information and really being able to, as I grew older and, got in high school and college and then actually was voting, I was able to, live in a family that I don't necessarily agree with, but we still loved each other. I don't agree with my dad in everything, but I do agree with him in a lot of things. So I think really just using all that information, don't ever judge anyone regardless of how they vote. and being able to kind of learn why people vote the way they do. I keep on going back to it, but if I spent all day on Facebook, I find myself being a little bit more judgmental. And then when I meet with those same people in real life, I find that, they're voting because they do have a passion for, their positions. And it seems like learning those positions in person versus over social media strictly. I'm not anti-social media, but it seems to make those, to make you really understand why they're coming from. Everyone has a reason why they're coming from where they're coming from. And, you shouldn't hold people in negative light just because they vote a certain way, I would say.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just want to say again that we'll flip the Act Blue link at the bottom here if you want to donate to Rock the Vote. Again, like we registered 100% of your student athletes, which I think is a really rare endeavor. And young people in general are like registered to vote more than before. And increasing the youth turnout could really be transformative for the fix our country. So I guess we'll transition into the next thing. And thank you for this. Hey Lily, thanks for joining us. Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about the Virtual Buddy program. Why was it created?
So the Virtual Buddy program was created by Ogeros to sort of give families within the Eugene community the chance to connect with student athletes during the COVID-19 pandemic. It also is sort of built in to alleviate some stress parents might have having their kids home 24/7 versus being in school like they were typically. So it was just essentially a chance for student athletes to connect with children in the Eugene and Springfield community.
So were you participating in the Virtual Buddy program from home?
Yes, I was participating in it in my home in California.
Very cool. So what made you want to be a Virtual Buddy?
Initially, I saw it online. I read the description of it. It looked really cool. And then I feel like sometimes when I'm at school, my schedule's just so packed. And I feel like sometimes I don't have time for everything I want to do. And when I was home, I just felt like I had extra time. I was still getting in all my workouts and going to class and tutoring like usual. But just being home, I felt like I did have a little bit more time. And so with that time, I thought it'd be really nice to be able to give back to the Eugene community and give back a little bit of my time that I had sitting around doing nothing. So I thought it'd be better to occupy my time doing something. So that's essentially why I did it.
How often did you meet with your buddy?
Me and my buddy met once a week. In the beginning, we had a routine schedule. I believe we met like every Tuesday around noonish in between my class and tutoring schedule. And then as time went on and, like scheduling and stuff, we just made a schedule to meet once a week, but it definitely kind of varied as the more and more our relationship built.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
What would you say like your experience was like overall?
Honestly, like I had a really amazing positive experience with it. My buddy's awesome. We still talk to this day. I'm really close with him and his family now. And I just think you don't truly understand the impact of things like this until you like participate and partake in it. So I would definitely recommend doing it and people to get involved in doing it because I thought it was an amazing experience.
Cool. So what have you learned from this experience? Like what's one thing that you took away that you'll have for a while?
I mean, definitely the relationship I built with my virtual buddy Gavin, I'll take away from this for sure. And then I also just think my family, all my cousins and my siblings and everything are kind of older. So I've never really had the experience working with someone Gavin's age. So I think that was a really cool experience I took away from it, getting to, talk and work with someone younger. So I think that's also something that I'll take away from this also.
Very cool.
Yeah, super cool. Thanks a lot for joining us, Lily.
Thank you, Lily.
All right, that was Lily Rath, the current Duck soccer athlete, and she was just telling us about the Virtual Buddies program, which was a project Ogeros did in the spring. That's just one way of how we're involved in our community, and there's a lot of other things we do too, so stay tuned for more opportunities if you're an Oregon athlete. So as we move to the end of our stream, we have Melissa Berry, who's an Ogeros chair, and she's a track athlete here at Oregon. And she's going to tell us about how our teams and community will keep working once the election's over. Hey, Melissa.
Hey, is this working okay?
Yeah, it's great. So, can you talk a little bit about your
Hi, sorry, it looks like it's lagging a little bit, but yeah, so just with our mission with Ogeros, it's really to just show student athletes how they can use their platform to have an impact in the community and to provide athletes with a variety of events to help like widen their interests and build their confidence. With that being said, Ogeros is an organization that strives to benefit both the athlete and the community. Our goal is to not only provide events, but to also dial in on certain events that can really make an impact in like the Eugene Springfield area as a whole. Every event we do has a purpose, and we really want to see that passion like shine through the athletes, and really, it really just comes down to brightening someone's day. But yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, you talked about passion. Could you talk a little bit more about what makes you passionate about being a part of Ogeros?
Yeah, so my passion for Ogeros has really developed
Thank you.
significantly like over the past 2.5 years or so. Initially, my freshman year, I joined because I had been involved with a few nonprofits in high school, and I wanted to continue to be a part of them. And when I found out there was like a subcommittee dedicated to community service opportunities, I wanted to join so that I could like not only share the opportunities I had been a part of, but to also learn new ones like in my area. So a big part of the reason I am so passionate is because this is the town that I grew up in, and I care a lot about it. That's why I wanted to become co-chair of my sophomore year, because I saw the impact student athletes can have in this community, and I would really just be happy to aid to that. Like I said before, student athletes have such a huge platform, and I know how much this community cares about us. So I know how grateful they are when we take our time to show that we just care about them too.
That's so cool. Can you talk a little bit about what Ogeros has to offer in terms of upcoming events?
Yeah, so it looks a little different this year because of COVID and everything. But coming up, we have our Thanksgiving baskets. So each sport pledges like a number of baskets they would like to donate, and then a member of their team like goes out and buys food for families that really can't afford to have like a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. And so each member of a team like donates a certain amount of money, and they pledge to like say baseball, they want to donate 10 baskets. So each member will donate like $5, and they'll go out and buy like all the ingredients and then socially distance like deliver them at that family store. So we've done that several years in the past, so we're really excited to continue this event. And we are also going to be starting up virtual school visits where student athletes can choose to hop on a Zoom call with a local high school or middle school, or they can get in touch with a class from a high school at home. And the athletes will be able to like share their experiences with the main prompt of like what they wish they knew when they were their age, if that makes sense. So the calls will be like about 15 to 20 minutes long, and they can just share their wisdom and experience. But like those are two like big things coming up that we're really trying to focus on. But
Yeah, that sounds like a super cool project. So, what should current Oregon student athletes do if they want to get involved with Ogeros coming up?
right. So we really want to emphasize that the brand we have for Oh Heroes goes way beyond just events that we put on. But like yes, we provide opportunities, but really we just want to get the ball rolling so that athletes know how they can make an impact on their communities like on their own time. So whether that's like the traditional volunteering, like picking up litter or something like that, playing with kids, writing thank you cards, going out voting, like being an activist in your community. Like it goes way beyond events that we put on. So we really want to show that like Ogeros is a brand, and you don't just have to participate in our events. Just knowing that you're getting out there in the community, whether that's in this area or back home, like we know we are succeeding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. That's super cool, Melissa. And your passion definitely shows. Definitely keep up the good work. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Our youth athletes do quite a bit in the community. So now we're joined by Tanner Smith, a member of the baseball team here at Oregon and a co-chair for Ogeros. Tanner's helping our teams do things for our community on election day. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that was a little choppy, but Tanner, thanks a lot for being here. Tanner's on the baseball team. Tanner, can you talk a little bit about what kind of things our teams did today and how it went? Is Tanner coming back? Okay, I guess Tanner's having internet trouble. So I guess we'll just conclude now. So we want to thank everyone who joined us today. We heard from Coach Meninga and Coach Walden about the Keep It 100 project within Oregon Athletics. And we had a great discussion about how everyone in our communities can work to create positive change together. We've also had a chance to see what our student athletes are already active in and how we're going to keep working every day moving forward. Current student athletes can get involved with Ogeros anytime they want, so just reach out online. Yeah, we just, again, want to thank all of our guests, especially Rock the Vote for all the great work they do. Again, we're going to flash the link for the Act Blue here at the bottom where you can donate money to Rock the Vote to support the kind of work they're doing. Yeah, so we want to apologize again for all the tech issues we've had. Just a couple of Wi-Fi problems with a few of our guests, but we think the meaning of the event was retained. And thanks so much for tuning in and for all your generous donations. We've had a great time today, and we just want to say again that Ogeros is dedicated to continuing engagement in the community, and we look forward to continuing these projects in the future. Thanks so much for being here.